Today was one of those days that offered up both clarity and concern and left this longtime Helldiver asking, what the f***? That's all I've got for you. Today did nothing to get me to a point of feeling better about the hands steering this ship. Now, I tend to keep my powder dry for moments just like this, and I've got some thoughts, so hold on tight. If you can, please remember to hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell so you never miss one of my future upload alerts. And here we go. I honestly wasn't expecting to drop a Helldivers video today, but we've got some stuff to talk about. But first, the TLDR on our Festival of Reckoning up-to-date stats are looking like this. With 3.5 days to go, you divers have racked up an impressive 29% of the kills on Marfark, 23% of the kills on New Stockholm, and wait for it, 63.5% of the kills necessary on Heath, with all three of these planets making use of the modified 120 EMS strikes. Now, crazy fact here is that even when you combine the bot and squid kills together, it barely equals half of what you've already bodied on Heath. Hashtag Bug Diver for life. We also just received an in-game dispatch that for the next 48 hours, all divers will have access to the Hoverpack stratagem, regardless of if you already owned it or not. Now, this was an awesome piece of tech that was locked inside of the borderline Justice War Bond, and you would, of course, have needed to have paid the 1,000 super credits to unlock it, and then grinded to page 3 to unlock the actual pack, spending, of course, hundreds of medals along the way. So if you've never had the opportunity to hover above your targets and rain down death from above, give it a go. And finally, I quickly need to circle back around to the Killzone Warbond. I know, I'm sorry, but we've got to touch on it again because despite my best attempts to help out here, it seems some within the community still have questions. Now, the confusion is how the past purchases affect the current unlocking of the Warbond. So here it is, again. A year ago, when Arrowhead put the first page of Killzone gear on sale in the Superstore, which you can see now on your screens, and if you purchased any of these items using super credits before they took this page out of the Superstore, of course due to player backlash, then you are one of the ones who gets the Killzone Legendary Warbond unlocked for free, plus any items you owned will show as unlocked inside the Warbond. If you did not purchase anything here on page 1 for super credits back when it was in the Superstore and you only got the page 2 items which Arrowhead gave us for free, again, take a look at your screens, these things you see here, then you will have to pay to unlock the Warbond. So that's 1,500 super credits, but once you gain access to the Warbond, all of these page 2 items will show as unlocked and available to use immediately. You'll still need to purchase everything else in the Warbond with medals, but there you go. And of course, if you weren't around a year ago and completely missed everything Killzone, i.e. Team Green, you'll have to purchase the Warbond and then each item in the Warbond as well. Alright, on to the main event as Arrowhead uncorked yet another democratic conversation. Yeah, this time with Niklas Malmborg, design director at the studio. And before you ask, yes, this is the same Niklas that was in the now infamous "What Happened to the Coyote Changes" poke that they made it to the community, and he is the same Niklas that then admitted live on stream that the studio had indeed altered everything around the Coyote in an attempt to pull back on the Coyote. And I've now listened to this entire conversation twice, cover to cover, and it again leaves me with some of the strongest what the fuck moments I can remember with this studio and game. We'll get into some of the specifics here, and Niklas was touching on all sorts of talking points during this convo, ranging from power levels, balancing realism, fantasy, and pretty much everything in between. But as you really start to listen to his responses, you get the sense that either A, the feedback the studio is receiving and the studio is accepting is completely off-center, as in a very loud few in the community seem to have their ears, and the studio is tailoring the game in that direction, or B, and I don't know how else to say this, but it really boils down to these devs have no flippin' idea what's going on inside of their own game. Maybe that's gonna come off as harsh, but I really didn't know how else to word it. And I'm expressing my opinions as someone that has about 1,000 hours logged into the game. I've pretty much seen and done it all. I dive on 10s, and I frequently try funky off-meta loadouts just to kind of see what else is out there. So my reactions are going to be coming from a place of honesty, let's call it brutal honesty, along with what I think is a balanced approach. Now for this breakdown, I want to create some pain points. I want to present some facts, which also gives me a good launching pad into what the hell happened today, along with some of the aha moments Niklas kind of supplied us with. So here we go. Pain point number 1. Arrowhead has this philosophy on weapon balancing based on pure fiction. So first, here is Niklas talking his way through their approach to design and balance.
When it comes to all of those things, we're just like, oh, they, at some point in time, either when they were introduced or at some point, they were like, we toned them down a little bit. Kind of almost needed a whiteboard, but I don't have one. I'll use interpretive. I'll use interpretive dance instead. So basically, we've gotten to a place where us, and I think the majority of the community agrees, it's like this kind of power level is like, now we're happy. Here the game feels good. It seems to make sense. We're having a good time. At 60-day patch or before it, we were like, the game versus what you can do felt like you were a little bit underpowered. And we bumped it up a bit, and then like people were like, yeah, this is better. Like it will feel better. We don't know exactly what you're aiming for yet, but this is better. And at a certain point, we feel like we got kind of close to at around where we are now. It's like there are some bumps, but like the power level is roughly like in a good place, and we can shake hands with the community and be like, yes, the game experience here is good. If we get stuff that pop up from this, and like, oh, the Master Blaster 2000 is like incredibly better than all the other weapons, then you get like, using that one, everything else might feel worse, but also you're kind of playing another game. Like here's the game that you're playing that's above everyone else where you can do more. And some people will be like, yes, that's the game I want to play. Why take that away from me? But then we'll also have like, some people don't want that. They want to use the other stuff. And if you come into a lobby and players are like, here we're going for it. Difficulty 10, like doing everything, having a breeze, destroying predator strain, everything. Then they will say, oh, you joined the lobby, take the Master Blaster 2000. And he's like, no, I don't want to play with that. And I say, well, then you're gone, kick. Like we had in the beginning of the game with like, oh, you didn't bring a railgun to the lobby, and then you got kicked because they're like, oh no, you're just making bad choices. There was some indication of that during the prime era of the Incendiary Breaker 2. And then you get like, now we start getting a separation of community where some players say like, no, we're playing on this power level. The rest of the weapons and gear are on this power level. We want to be up here. And then maybe some people are like, oh, we play with the Constitution and they're playing down here. The Constitution is kind of a mean weapon anyway, but the more separations you get, like you kind of get a divide in the player base. They start fighting with each other. We kind of want everyone to be like, I'll take the stuff that I want to play with. And everyone's like, else is like, yeah, cool. That's good because everything kind of works.
All right. So here was, at least for me, one of those aha moments I mentioned earlier, and it boils down to Arrowhead still clinging to this random Steam post where someone posted that they had been kicked from a lobby for not using, at that time, the meta loadout. And then IGN picked up on this and ran it as a full article, and this is way back in February 2024, by the way, and then it sort of metastasized into this Helldivers players are spitefully kicking other players who are not using certain weapons, and you know, you get the picture from there. Now, the thing is, this was never an epidemic within the Helldivers community. Were some players being douchebags and kicking other players? Yes, of course. That's the chance you take with randoms in an online game. But I was there back then when the Ensign Breaker Shield Backpack Railgun was the top tier loadout, and I never got kicked from lobbies when I chose to use something else. In fact, I really didn't know this was a thing until much more recently, so that's instantly an issue if the devs are still clinging to this fictional problem and trying to balance everything off of that falsehood. Plus, let me throw this in here just so you know it. The main culprit in that meta was the railgun, which was bugged and dishing out huge damage if you had a PS5 player in your lobby. And Arrowhead, instead of fixing the bug, took a look at the pick rates, and systematically went on a witch hunt, knocking down the ensign breaker, knocking down the shield, and absolutely decimating the railgun. I'll also throw this in here in case you missed it, but when Niklas says we toned them down, that's the studio's PC way of saying we nerfed them. He also mentions that power levels were down around the Escalation of Freedom update even before it, which is factually true. But you know what else was down at the very same time the power levels were? Player counts. And I mean, these things were in the toilet to the point that many were questioning if Helldivers was on its deathbed. It took the 63-day plan and a massive amount of power level increases to bring players back. And so when I watch Niklas speak, I hear him, but there's a voice in the back of my mind that says, they don't hear us. You see, history has shown us that when Arrowhead and their grunt fantasy realism kick takes over, the players drop off. And when they get laser focused in on making things fun to shoot and giving us a shit ton of things to shoot at, the players log on. Notice I didn't say that when they give us a bunch of overpowered weapons and make everything die in one hit, because nobody's out here advocating for that version of Helldivers. But the game is what it is. Arrowhead, you need to accept this. It's a horde-style, over-the-top explosions, meme-producing shooter. And when it strays away from that, it suffers, and suffers badly. But seriously, they need to erase this balancing ethos around, we've got to make sure everything is at this level because the Helldiver community has a toxic kicking culture, because we don't. If metas and meta busting is what they want, and it sounds like it is, then let's talk about the metas they themselves, the studio, Arrowhead, have created by introducing into the game the hidden enemy stat of durable damage. I mean, hell, you could also throw in the nearly 30 other hidden stats that affect outgoing and incoming damage. But anyways, more specifically, I want to talk about explosive weapons. You see, armor penetration, we can see, we can work around it, but then you've got durable body parts. With certain weapons, like for instance lasers, basically doing nothing but tickling durable body parts. Then you've got Arrowhead going in and buffing all sorts of durable body parts on common enemies like recently berserkers and warriors, which is where their own meta comes into the equation: explosive weapons. Why do I as a player need to equip an inferior primary weapon along with a support weapon to compensate for the primary's deficiencies when I can just run with something like the Purifier or even the Eruptor? Because Arrowhead has coded explosive weapons to disregard durability. They have such an unneeded fascination with realism and pick rates and making sure that nothing is meta, but then they've clearly designed the game to favor explosive weapons, therefore creating a meta. Pain point number 2 is communication. I mean, it has to be, right? And if we drill down into that even further, we need to talk about transparency. We've heard comments from Shams, Michael, and now Niklas about this push as a studio to be more transparent, to keep the players in the know about what is happening and, more importantly, why. But then, and I hate to bring up the past here, but here we go, just a few weeks ago, the player base got that show about how the studio forgot to include the coyote in the patch, which rubbed a lot of people the wrong way when it was discovered in the change logs that many things related to fire status values and ignition points on enemies had been changed, which directly affected the coyote, to which Niklas then came clean about on livestream. Seriously, man, when this game is performing well, I, like all of you out there, love playing it. But over the past nearly 2 years, we've been lied to and gaslit over and over and over again about this crap. I mean, the truth is, major changes happen with the studio and they come clean when they get caught red-handed and their only option is to spill the beans, or they see that the player counts are dipping insanely low and they decide to go into the sliders and adjust the power levels back to something that makes the game enjoyable to play. And finally, pain point number 3, realism versus space magic. And you had to have known this one was coming, right? Now, this came from a community question about the one true flag and if it would ever receive some sort of status effects.
We're trying to keep the game pretty grounded in terms of what you see and understand, and not too much hidden stuff, or that most of the game plays in the HUD or the UI. So I know we have some like effects that you kind of have to know. Like you have the 𝗏𝗔𝐶y protects armor, which is it's plot armor, we call it. That's the funny stuff with it. But it's a little bit magic. So the question is like, would the one true flag have an effect like that? How would you show it? We don't want to put weird markers in the game that would break the immersion. So we're not really actively looking at it because, you know, it's the one true flag. It's the flag, and it's also just the flag. It's not a magic flag. It should raise your morale anyway when you're there as a player. But we don't want to do too much of this, like, oh, it's a cool thing, and now you have like effects that you don't really understand why there is like that effects exist. You could argue, as that's why I brought it up, like the 𝗏𝗔𝐶y protects has kind of like a magic effect almost. But I'm not sure I want to do the one true flag into maybe a competitive option. It's more like, you want to bring a flag? Here's a flag. Like, is it good to bring a flag into a war zone? Maybe not. It's maybe not your first weapon of choice, charging the enemy lines.
So there you have it, guys. It's just a flag. Which begs the question, then why was it included in the paid Masters of Ceremony Warbond? Which, to be honest, is not really the topic here, because what it boils down to, and when you listen to Niklas and what he's saying here, you instantly hear this use of selective realism and wanting to avoid, as he calls it, space magic. But then in the same breath, he mentions democracy protects, the passive, and how it's magic. Like, what? Remember what I said? I don't think they understand what's actually going on inside of their own games. Well, here it comes. We, as players, can't have a morale boost aura to this flag that could apply some sort of distance-based buff for being within the range of the flag, but yet we've got democracy protects that gives us a 50-50 chance of surviving a full-out nuclear blast. We've got a warp pack that uses dark fluid to warp us magically across space and time. There's things like plasma weapons, stim booster effects that let us run faster than a normal human. And for instance, we've also got a floating laser dog that never overheats and zip zaps out to other planetary dimensions. Yet a boost for choosing to run around with a melee weapon is out of the question because we're trying to keep the game grounded.
Right.
Again, what part of space magic already exists inside of Helldivers did this dev team miss out on? I mean, I'm literally speechless here listening to this again, because you hear about them, as confirmed here by Niklas, and how they're still clinging to that kicking epidemic shtick for not taking the meta weapons, and that's how they adjust things. And you hear about this selective application of realism, yet they give flying overseers infinite hover, and they give predator strain bugs the ability to go invisible. But something applied to this weapon or that weapon is not going to happen, because we need to keep this thing grounded, guys. And hearing that makes me want to scream. And don't get me going on this ever-present cry and admission about how the studio wants to be more transparent. Seriously, this game could be peak. Hell, it was peak until this kind of half-cocked approach to design and balance took over. It's almost like we as a community need to mail Arrowhead one of those Men in Black flashy pins that erases their memories up to a certain point, and then we need to find the bit on the timeline where they forgot what makes this game great, and then we need to erase whatever led them up to where we land now. Now, let me also say this as well. The game isn't damned. It's not like the Earth is about to open a giant freaking hole underneath Arrowhead and swallow the whole damn thing. But when you hear the design director spouting this stuff, it gives you both clarity, but also concern. There's a ton more here from the interview, as it runs about 35 minutes in total length, and I'll include a link to it down in the video description. And I also wanted to say, I apologize if this one just comes off as too brutally honest, but when you see greatness and it continually tries to settle for just being average, that bothers me. Drop a comment if you so feel inclined, and I'll of course do my best to respond. Remember to hit subscribe and to ring the notifications bell to receive my upload alerts. Thanks goes out to all of my current channel members. You ladies and gents rock out there, and your support is greatly appreciated. Until the next one, this is 𝗏𝗏𝗶𝘀𝗲𝗏 signing off.